potent advice, and inspiration from real self-made millionaires. Welcome to The Eventual Millionaire with your host, Jaime Masters.
Welcome to Eventual Millionaire. I'm Jaime Masters, and I'm so excited to have brothers Guy and Ilan on the show from Satori Prime. We already started talking about tons of crazy, amazing stuff, so I said we have to start recording right now so we can capture it all. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, guys.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for having
us. Your website is
us.
fantastic too, by the way. Tell us what you do. You have some really great copy or copywriting. I don't know which one of you does this or if you pay someone else, but it's fantastic. So go ahead and tell us what you actually do.
I'm going to let you take it.
Yeah, so this is Ilan, and I know for those of you listening in the car, this is going to get confusing because our voices do sound eerily similar. So what we do has morphed and changed a whole bunch of times, as I'm sure you guys in business already know. We created Satori Prime because at the time we had both been in finance, lost everything. I was living on unemployment checks, house in foreclosure. Guy had to move in with my parents and sell his car. And in this genius moment of a time, my brother goes, "Hey, Ilan, do you want to start a business?" And I was like, "This is as good a time as any." So for all you out there that think that you need to be at this perfect moment to start a business, let's blow up that myth. And we asked ourselves a really important question, and I think it's a question that people don't ask themselves. And the question was, if we could do something for the rest of our lives and not get paid for it, what would that thing be? And just to be very clear, we needed money at this point more than any other time in our lives. Mm-hmm. And yet that was the question, because we were just thinking, if we're going to dedicate our lives to something, it's got to be something that we are that passionate about, that money is not the factor at all. And so Satori Prime, when we started, we had done personal development and coaching since 2003, and we're doing it for free just because it was fulfilled our soul. And when we started building Satori Prime, that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to be coaches. And so we realized, okay, we're not going to walk out on the street and like, "Hey, do you want to be a client? Do you know anybody that wants a life coach?" So we're like marketing. So we got deep into that world, and Satori Prime, when we first started, was really just we're affiliate marketers. Then we got really good at Facebook. We started doing some Facebook training, and kind of like the undertone of everything we ever did was personal development. And the website that you mentioned started basically the idea in 2016 to pivot the entire business back to the core reason we started this business. And so we've automated and or partnered all the affiliate online marketing stuff. Basically, we do like 5% of that today. And now we just do coaching from anyone. The people that we work with one-on-one are, multiple 5- and 6-figure clients, but mission to serve 100 people. We have programs for everyone under the sun. So if you can afford a couple $100, like, we got something for you too. So it was really important for us to be true to that and not be one of these like, "Oh, we're so hoity-toity, we only work with these people."
Hey, that's what I do. Don't make fun of me. Okay. That's what I'm really impressed at, though, in listening to you guys' story. Like, how can you, especially when you're at your lowest point, right? Go after giving other people advice, because everyone will be like, "How are you life coaches if you don't have you blah, blah, blah," right? You lived at home with your mom. I don't know what to tell you, right? So that number one, but number two, not going after the money, because that's scary.
That is scary. Well, I'll say this. At that time, we were probably in personal development work, I want to say 8 or 9 years. A lot of teachings, like most teachings, have a lot to do with integrity. All right. So we wanted something around integrity. Now, I just want to quickly define that word, because I don't mean like keeping a promise. It's more like the wholeness, right? Like if like a bicycle wheel has integrity, all the spokes are in. That's why it's working. So if there's a word that I would replicate for integrity, it's just workability. And we had a lot of opportunities to do things that were like borderline, I don't want to say immoral, but just like borderline don't quite feel so good. It's like, go after the money, go after the fast cash grab. And at every opportunity we had that to do, we chose the latter, which was, hey, let's go the slower route. Let's build something that feels really, really good. Something that when you go to bed at night, you don't have to sit there and run through all those thoughts. feel good about who you're serving. And those are the choices we just kept making. And you're right. It's like when there's not money, how do you do that? Well, it's like, hey, if you're going to build something that you care about, it's different. I don't want to say anything is better, right? If you're like selling Amazon product and you're just hucking those things and it's really just about analytics for you, you might be a person who loves analytics and that really gets you off. But, and maybe service is not quite where you're at. I think for us, and I've seen this with really any process of mastery always begins with the self, right? Once you kind of get that down, you tend to want to serve other people. You get to a certain place that's just this very natural place. So we knew that serving people was more important than how much money was in the bank account. And we knew if we could just learn how to serve more people, serve better, serve at a higher quality, the money would just be a side effect of that. And that's remained as kind of the cornerstone of the company.
I love it, especially the process of self, right? So of getting better and better and better, because a lot of people don't even know what that is. It sounded like you guys already did, thank goodness. So you didn't have to wait even longer before you made money, right? Yeah. But finding out what that is and that self-exploration, and because I didn't know what I want to do either. I was like, I have no idea. I wish I did. It would be so much easier. But a lot of people aren't even in that spot yet, or they're not paying attention to maybe it is an Amazon business that gives them money and they don't even ask that question like you were saying.
Yes.
Absolutely. I think Ilan and I have done a lot of things in reverse order. Most people start a business, then realize, oh crap, the business isn't growing because I'm holding it back. All right, time to grow, and they get into the developmental work. We had done that for a really long time without having a business. And I'll tell you time and time again, we spend a good amount of time around people who have 7, 8, 9-figure businesses, stuff like that. And I've seen it almost across the board. If you haven't done the inner work, even if the outer results are there, it's kind of an empty experience. We were just with a really good friend of ours who I'm actually going to see tomorrow morning for breakfast. And, in the last 3-4 years, we were one of his first clientele. Like we were one of his first $1,000 a month paying clientele. Today, he's got a $4 million business. That was like 3 years ago. And we were just skiing with him out in Utah. And when we had a conversation, he said, look, if you gave me a checklist of all the things that I wanted to accomplish that would create my dream life, he goes, I have a check on every single box. And then he starts crying. And there's a depreciation, obviously, of all that's happened, but he's crying because it hasn't solved anything. And there's that Western mythology and ideology that when I change my circumstances, then I will feel great. And the truth is it's not really how it works. Like Western mind, Western religion, Western spirituality is all about growing up. Here's how you grow up. Eastern philosophy, Eastern spirituality is all about waking up. And there's kind of like a dissonance between these two worlds. It's like nobody's trying to integrate both, and because of that they might have grown up, and this is why you can see people are super smart doing really immoral things, or see really spiritual people who are really actually quite enlightened but might still be xenophobic, homophobic, and all those other things, because they haven't matched those two worlds together. And there's an emptiness that kind of seems to be in both space when you're not kind of integrating both. So I think like our approach has been, hey, money is all about growing up. But then there's like, you might be lacking spirituality, and there's nothing wrong with making a shitload of money and being super spiritual. Like I completely discount that living on the mountain crap for spirituality. But at the same time, I do think that there's something about focusing on both, so they're both growing kind of with balance. Otherwise it creates a disharmony.
Yeah, what you're saying is exactly why I started the site too. And I know my people have heard this before, because it's the millionaire myth, right? So it's all about the money and you go after it. And yes, you have to grow sort of as a person as you're growing the money. But then you look at yourself and you're like, what the heck is the whole point of all it? Like more money is not the problem solver, right? Mm-hmm. And that's good to know. And if you're doing what you love and you have the money, that's great too. But then I had to add on the extra like, okay, but wait, why am I actually here? Like, it's good to be, crap, now there's more, right? And that's where spirituality comes in. And I always thought it was sort of one of those things that you sort of go like this, and that's what they tell you to do when you're younger. But one of the biggest pieces, and I know both of you talk about this a lot, which is why I want to sort of bring it into this. I talk about meditation a lot on this because it was the only way that I could get my brain as a crazy entrepreneur to shut off in any way. And it was, it took years to get it to actually shut off. But when we talk about like the core of what you guys do for personal development, what are those pieces? I know meditation's a big piece that I want to talk about. And whoever wants to field this question, because nobody can tell who's saying what on the audio version anyway.
You guys should play a little game with yourself. Like, who's talking now?
That's awesome.
Well, so we have kind of an ascension model. And one of the things when we created this platform of what we take people through, we thought the same thing. Like, if there was just the one foundational thing, and I think you're going to ask this at the end, so I might be blowing this, it might be a premature.
Do it anyway. Do it
blank,
now.
blank.
We want it all early.
Yeah. And I just think it's timely. So we thought, okay, what's the one thing that anyone can do that makes the biggest difference? And I have to tell you, 5,000 years ago, this was handed to human beings, and it is true today more than ever. And that really is meditation. So our core product basically that we just created is called Prime Your Day. And it's something that people can get for like $27 if they want. And really it's, if you can't commit to even 5 minutes every morning. I read this line by Stephen Covey. He said the first 30 minutes of your day is the biggest contributor to what the next 23 and a half hours of your day looks like. I don't care how committed you are to your success. Working harder, doing more, doing faster, grinding, hustling, all these words that get thrown around. Okay, can get you results. I'm telling you, it is not fulfilling. It is draining. It is overwhelming. It will bury you through sickness, disease, and discomfort. Whereas being and tapping into inspired thought and divine inspiration, godliness, all that stuff, you don't get access to that until you do basics like wake up in the morning, don't look at your phone, go sit somewhere, be in silence, and tune in. And I know for some people, like the argument is, well, I never feel it. I don't know if I'm doing it right. My voice is really loud. Perfect. That's perfect meditation. That's perfect meditation. If you wake up in the morning and your voice is going ballistic, that's perfect meditation. If you wake up and you fall asleep during the meditation, perfect meditation. It's not about what happens during the meditation. It's what happens during the next 23 and a half hours of your day. And people that come to us and like, I want to work with you. I want to work with you. Do you meditate every day? That's step one to work with us. Why? Because if you can't commit to doing that, how the hell are you going to commit to doing all the other things that we're going to share with you? So for us, it's like prime your day, build that foundation, right? From there, let's look at the power of manifestation, because everything you ever want in your life comes from learning how to be a badass manifester. You don't know how to take thought, feelings, and emotion and create something, then what the hell are we doing, right? So that's the ease part, the effortlessness. The next piece we do is ascension, because at this point, we're now looking to heal and remove blocks, stories, patterns, things that have been holding you back for decades that you have no idea are running the show. That's the ascension. And then from there, we just go into activation. And this kind of like what we spoke about before we got on the call. It's like, there's this other world that most people don't get to tap into, where like DNA activation and light activation and like body healing and like that most people in the business world don't get to talk about. Yep. But like, if you want to be someone that has life happen for them in an easy, effortless manner where synchronicity is all around you all the time, like that takes activation. And that's really where now, like what I said is, you know, those are the people that we love to work with who have reached financial success, done all that kind of stuff. And then they're like, there's got to be more. I'm like, want to be activated from the inside out, want to experience what that's like. And then that's who we get to work with. And we've kind of built this pattern to get people there.
And everyone's like, what the heck are they? Yeah, but I agree. Yeah. Like the activation side, I have so many synchronicities in my life. It is ridiculous. And so what I want to do, especially because everybody's on their own path and on their own journey in a different spot, right? And when I chat with people, sometimes it takes health issues or whatever, this pain that's great enough to realize that maybe I will meditate. Maybe she does have a point, right? And I usually recommend like Joe Dispenza's You're the Placebo, because they can go, oh no, I'm in pain. If I meditate, I can feel better. Okay, yay, go team, right? So there's that as like my little wiggle room. How do you guys, are you just working with different types of people that are all in on meditation already? Or are they excited about it? They just don't think they can do it? Like, give us the first few steps.
You know, it really depends on the person. And we kind of talked about manifestation a little bit. Look, as we grow, the people we're attracting are coming to us with different levels of needs, right? So it used to be about the people who are really dealing with like money issues and want to take care of that, and maybe it was a health issue or just like basic stuff about relationships. Now we do have people coming to us who've been in a process and work for a long time, who may have done a lot of plant medicine work, or who are keenly aware of their energy field and stuff like that, and they're looking for that much deeper core, like how do I get to the cellular level of myself, communicate with galactics, for lack of a better word, start channeling, do all the stuff. Because look, Ilan, you could tell we're a little bit enthusiastic.
I know. I was like, passion, crazy passion. I'm going like this too, so I can't really say anything.
Yeah, she's like flying off her seat, because it's funny when you meet a nerd who's just like a nerd like you. It's really exciting, and everybody's a nerd to their own effect, right? You got musical nerds, you got your artistic nerds, you got your money nerds. We're just spiritual freaking geeks, and we really get off on this stuff. And I think 98% of the books I'll read throughout the year are nonfiction, psychology, neurology, things about the energy system, chakra systems, meditation, like whatever I can get my hands on, and I love it. So now that's what's changed. And I'll say, like, I don't want to prescribe anything, because I don't think there's a certain prescription for any individual about their own enlightenment. I think that's what dogmatic religion actually doesn't do very well, is that they try to prescribe one pill for all. And if you just kind of look at your own life and you want to validate through your own experience, you don't have to say, oh, this guy's an idiot, I'm religious, whatever. It doesn't matter to me. That's not my point here, or an argument at all. Whatever works for you, fantastic, keep doing it. My point is that, like, if you're going to go take somebody and you're a master dancer, like you're the best at salsa in the world, and a person comes to you and they're like, hey, I want to master the salsa. Now, I can show you certain things, right? I can open doors for you. I might even give you some insights on how to be a salsa dancer. But the process is going to be you looking at your feet, counting steps, eventually looking up from your feet, no longer counting the steps. Now you're kind of getting in the flow, but you're going to dance with every partner a little bit different than you danced with the partner before. And you can't prescribe the same way. Now, when that person masters salsa, guess what? They're not dancing it like you. They're dancing it their own way. Ilan dances it his way. I dance it my way, and you're going to dance it your own way. So these days, we're like...
My way is just horrible.
We're just like that person that leads the partner so that they can kind of get to it a little bit sooner. And look, without a doubt, there seems to be an event happening on the planet of awakening of the feminine frequency rising, and like of this harmonization of human race. Like, the conversation has grown tremendously. If you look at the industry as a whole, just how much money is being flooded into self-help and spirituality, it's like it's expanded in leaps and bounds. So that points to the fact that suddenly people are by the way, this is really interesting because I just heard this. If you look at people 34 and below right now, 75% of people no longer consider themselves religious. They'll say, I'm spiritual, but not religious.
Yes.
Where the older community, a little bit older, will say, I'm religious and I'm spiritual. And that's shifted because religion, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it may leave certain things out that truly help people towards the ascension that they're really looking for. And part of that is, it's like in the Western world, it's just about growing up. It very much lacks like that spiritual connection. And that's why you hear people say stuff like that. So for us, it's like, how do we make spirituality, even mystical experiences, accessible in such a way that doesn't make them like a dark art or like what people consider witchcraft, which is really just healing, by the way, guys.
Oh, I'm totally a witch. You didn't know that?
Yeah.
I tell my kids that all the time.
Me too.
Everybody's a witch and a wizard, basically, right? But when you take those things and you start to negatively define them, people don't want to look at what that is instead of looking, how does that help me?
Well, so, and that's my point too, and that's why I want to tell everybody that's listening. Like, the crazy thing is, when I started interviewing, I've interviewed almost 500 millionaires now, and the interesting thing is that what they don't talk about on the normal show, because most of them are friends of mine now, they're talking about this kind of stuff in the background, but like, that's not their shtick. Like, they're either business people, they talk about different things. So it's interesting getting you guys who are like, oh, I work with those people too. And some of the people that are the most successful are telling me exactly what you're telling me. So at the beginning, I was like, and you're crazy woo-woo. All right, I like science. Science is my thing, right?
And we do too. We love science, right? But look, for a practical person, you're going to need to talk to them about neurology in a way that's approachable, so that they can understand the phenomenons that are impacting their mind and how their mind is reacting to those phenomenons. Once you've kind of gotten mastery over that, you might be great at taking action. That's going to blow up your business. It sure as doesn't mean that you're healing from the inside. Buddhist work is forget the branches, forget the leaves, go to the root, right? So when we start talking about mystical experiences, we start talking about meditation, we're saying like, go to the root. Now, the scary part about somebody who's done no mind work is that when you mess with the roots, when you move them, when you take them out, when you shake them, it's going to change the tree. And that means there's going to be certain emotional experiences that suddenly seem to come out of nowhere, that if your mind is not adept at being like, holy shit, and it starts freaking out, then you're going to kibosh that and the roots are going to get planted back in. So it's like, you have to kind of marry a little bit of both these things. But for most people, their minds are saying such evil things to them. It's the stuff the stuff your parents said to you that you didn't like is the stuff that now is on loudspeaker in your head all the time. That's why when your parents are in front of you, you're freaking out because there's the loudspeaker talking to you, right? So again, if you're not aware of that yet, then to go deep dive into the body is more of a difficult experience. And that's kind of why we like to do, hey, let's deal with this. But if that's dealt with, hey, let's go right into the body. Let's do that work.
Well, and I think what's interesting too, when we look at entrepreneurs in general, they have to deal with the unknown and change like crazy. And so what we're trying to do is mitigate and go, I don't like this. I don't like unknown. I don't like change, and embracing that. And that's sort of what you guys talk about too. Like embracing that is actually a wonderful, wonderful thing instead of pushing it away. Because what we've been sort of taught to is be like, nope, I want consistency. I want predictability. This is what I want. And that's not life, especially when you get down to the spirituality level. You're like, oh no, right? There's so many rabbit holes we could go down, right? Yeah. So, because I want to just change trajectories a little bit because I wanted to chat about this because I'm crazy. So, you guys are leading a retreat for an ayahuasca ceremony. I know I had somebody probably 2 years ago talk a little bit about this, and it made me super excited. So talk a little bit about this and where on your little spectrum, not little spectrum, your large spectrum, where on the spectrum that would be. Because meditation does seem like the first step, but where would an ayahuasca ceremony fit in for the rest of it?
Well, I think ayahuasca is one of those things that's really interesting because Guy moved to San Diego from New York. And when he moved, there was no conscious awareness of ayahuasca. Like it didn't exist. We didn't hear about it, et cetera. Ayahuasca is one of those things that kind of like taps you on the shoulder and is like, I'm here. So, when you're called, you're called. And I remember when Guy came out and like told me his first experience, I was like, oh my God, sign me up. And I'm in New York and I'm like, who in New York is doing this? And it took me probably another 1.5 to 2 years. And the funny part was we were on someone else's podcast like this, being interviewed, and ayahuasca had come up. And afterwards, he's like, I can connect you with a whole bunch of people in New York. I was like, amazing. So yeah, it's all just like perfect and divine.
How long ago was that you guys first did it then?
So Guy, when did you do it? Probably like
I'm about 5 years now.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So my first experience was probably like 3 years ago now. And yeah, so the people that we take down with us are the people who are in our Ascension program. So you would have to have done some sort of like deep dive work with us. And one of the things that we do is we go out to this amazing place. We call it the Garden of Eden, and we're there for a week. And what's really interesting, it's actually led by shamanistas,
it's in Colombia, we should mention.
Yeah, which is super rare.
Wow.
In fact, in like Central and South America, generally women aren't involved with this, which is weird because the plant is so feminine. Anyway, so this woman,
explain what ayahuasca is for all the people that don't know also, because they might not even know like what it is.
Yes. So great point. I always like dive in and I'm like, yeah, people have no idea what.
Ready, go.
So yeah. Ayahuasca is basically a combination of a bark of a tree and a plant that they mix together. And the active ingredient in there is DMT. So it has hallucinogenic effects on you. And it's basically, Guy and I, we were just talking about this the other day, like, where did the idea to combine that tree with this plant, like, how did that come about? So it's like, there's like a lot of stuff that we're like, okay, this came from somewhere, right? And ultimately, I mean, there's amazing stuff. Even if you go online and just search, there's just amazing healing done by this medicine. It's very different from anything else that you can even imagine, even if you've done any other hallucinogenics. And it has just very, very powerful healing properties. So when we were there last year in the same place for a week, Guy and I had done like 15, 16 years of personal development. That 1 week was doing like 20 lifetimes of spiritual work. It was so deep. And we came out like, you want the body of your dreams? Spend a week. You want more money than you know what to do with? Spend a week. You want to heal relationships? Spend a week. Like, it is the end all be all of just healing and experience, because there's nothing like, there's no coach on the planet that can offer you this. There's no spiritual teacher that you can sit with that can do this, because all the stuff that we've been talking about, you know, the going in, that's the only place. And so it's almost like being connected to your soul, asking questions, and your highest self, soul, who's sitting there with God, is like, here's what you get to do.
Yes.
Here's what you get to look at. And it's just so powerful and guided by the right people and done in the right way. It's truly one of these experiences. Like, if you're called to do it, as scared and nervous as you might be, because it's unknown and you're like, what the fuck am I getting myself into? Truly, like, if your heart calls to it, it is one of life's, to me, one of life's greatest experiences.
Well, and I know everyone's going, oh, they're talking about drugs and it's not legal and all this stuff too. So I know there's probably going to be a lot of resistance and a lot of people going like, okay, what is this? But like, I know people that have gone through stuff like this that have cleared up PTSD in a day and a half or 2 days. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so what's so crazy is that there's evidence coming through for some of this stuff. They even have centers with different types of this medicine in different areas that do this on purpose on the medical side, right?
Yeah.
We just are so averse to, I mean, I used to wear the don't wear drugs t-shirt. I was super straight edge. I didn't drink. I didn't do any type of anything forever. I didn't do pot when I was younger. I didn't do anything because I was like, that is not how you live your life. You straight and narrow. And so everybody's sort of resistance to that. I just want you to open your mind a little bit to some of this stuff because it's crazy.
If I could just add
please.
right? Like it really is plant medicine. And again, like Western culture, not by anybody's own fault, but just by the admission of the conversations we've been raised around, this is bad, right? But it truly is plant medicine. Like, I know after I did ayahuasca, somebody's like, it's a drug. I'm like, no, it's you put it in your body. It's one of the most healing physical, mental, spiritual, heart experiences of your entire life. I'm like, to call it a drug is to like defame what it is. Now, Ilan and I have a lot of experience with all sorts of plant medicines. I've done iboga, I've done ayahuasca, I've done kambo, hepe, tsananga. Like I've done a fair amount of them, and it's an exploration of the psyche and spirit. And here's what I'll say: there are without a doubt other ways to get there. If you go to really powerful breath work, chances are you're going to have a DMT experiences. If you go do Vipassana, it's a 10-day silent meditation. Done that too. You're gonna have an essence of what this is. However, like what you achieve maybe in a decade or 2 decades of doing that type of work, ayahuasca will take you there immediately without you actually knowing how you got there. So I think the point is that it's a giant reset. It's like an identity killer. And again, go back to Buddhist things like, spirituality is dying so you can be reborn. Right? It's like constantly surrendering, dying so you can be reborn. Ayahuasca, it's like, here you go. You're going to be placid with death, with your own death, because when people die, like I had this DMT experience, there's a lot of something shifts when you've come to that place. Now, the point is for me these days, even if I continue to do any kind of plant medicine work, and I do openly, really, like we're one of the few business people that I think talk about it. I have no issue talking about it. Yep. It doesn't make me feel like I'm doing anything bad or wrong, nothing. So, I
posted once and I got so many people going like, you should not put that near your brand. And I was like, do I ask these guys about it or do I not? You know what?
Yeah.
I'm totally going to ask.
Well, here's the thing, right? If it's time for you to talk about it because you know this does well, then it's time for the brand to shift also, maybe the audience to shift, or either the audience to upgrade or a different audience to come in to listen, whoever's ready for it. My point is that, look, it shows you where the target is. The real work then is finding, maybe not the way back there, but it's like, here's the thing. I want to just offer a quick analogy. When you learn how to ride a bicycle and you gained balance, If your dad or your mom, whoever taught you, sat around and talked to you about riding that bicycle, they could have done that for a week straight, told you everything about the physics and the handlebars and the pedal, and it's going to be like this, it's going to feel like that. You're going to get on that bike. You can't ride that bike. However, then this momentary thing happens. So this is why we call the company Satori Prime. Satori, there's a moment of enlightenment. Something happens and you suddenly have balance. The moment before you didn't, it took a split second. Now explain to me logically how that happened. You might find good language for it. You might even be able to describe it, but you're not going to really talk about what happened, because what happened is you felt something in your body that a moment before you didn't feel, and it's like a frequency shift. Now that frequency gives you access to something for the rest of your life. And here's the thing, that frequency is not something you learned, it's something you remembered. Coaching is a process of remembrance for people. Spirituality is a process of remembrance for people. We've all done this before. Whatever your religious beliefs are, fine. Okay, if you don't believe that, great. I believe we've done this many, many times before. Your soul's traveled all over the universe, been on many planets, had many experiences in multiple dimensions, right? Like, this is just remembering. Unfortunately, this meat suit, or maybe fortunately, comes with amnesia. Right, so part of what we get to do is remember. So what happens is like, it's just like riding that bike. There's a different point of balance. Doing medicine, doing meditation is finding different points of balance, but every one of them reminds you of this little frequency. And you could feel that shift happening inside your body. You don't even need to truly understand what it is, right? It's like love. Suddenly you're in love with somebody. There's a frequency there. Suddenly you just had this knowing. You walk into a room, you walk out of it, you know something's going to change. Something's shifted inside. You don't really need to logic it. And I think that's what plant work does. That's what all this work does, is it gives you maps for these different frequencies. And these new maps gives you different, basically, pathways to journey on that people who just don't have those maps couldn't possibly know. Same as a child who doesn't know how to ride a bike yet. They just don't have that map.
Can I offer one thing for your listeners? Because this is like, there's an awesome book by Stephen Cutler called Stealing Fire.
Oh, yes. Yes, definitely.
And for anyone who's kind of on the outs of this and is like, oh, this is weird, you want to know what the head execs at Google are doing. Yep. You want to know what the Navy SEALs are up to. Like, he talks about it, and they participate in this kind of work. It's not woo-woo anymore. This is like performance-driven stuff. And if you think about it, yoga a bunch of years ago was weird. Your friend that did yoga 20, 30 years ago was the weird one. Your friend who meditated 15 years ago every day was the weird one. Now corporations have yoga and meditation classes that they pay for you to do. So like, times they are changing.
Times a million. And that's the thing. I've recommended that book. Jaime Wheel lives here in Austin, and he runs the Flow Genome Project. And trying to the blend of science and spirituality is something that is really exciting and coming on the forefront. Because what we don't know, we're just dumb. Most of us just have tiny brains. We have tiny brains as humans, and there's only so much capacity, right? So everybody's like assuming science is the end all be all right now, but it evolves like everything else does. And so it's interesting to see what's coming out and to imagine 20, 30 years from now with the technology we have and will have in the future. Yeah. Everybody's going to know this stuff. And we're going to actually be able to measure frequencies way better than we can now, which is kind of sad. Yeah. But I mean, I even show my clients the scale of emotion, even just to understand, because I thought emotions were silly for a very long period of time. It was great. Like, emotions are dumb. I'm going to learn how to only have the happy ones, so that way I'll be happy all the time. This is smart, right?
Yeah.
This is so smart.
Yeah.
Nice. Logical.
Nice. We've all been there.
Logical. So showing my clients the scale of emotion, and people are like, oh, I get it, right? There are different levels of where we are. And all I want for my clients is to be on the happier end as much as we can. Not that contrast is bad, because it teaches you lots of stuff. And some of the people listening need a lot of contrast to make any changes.
Yeah, sure.
Well, your soul chose an experience, right? And I heard this great analogy where it was like, your heart, the thing that creates emotions, is like the soundtrack to a movie. If the movie was playing and there was no music there was just stuff happening, right? Like, there's no emotional value. You'd just be watching a bunch of people walking in and out of rooms, doing certain things, and you'd be like, huh? Music, right? That thing that emotes. There's like the dark, like dun, 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 right? And they're like, da, 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 right? That's the beauty. If you watched a movie that the entire movie was a bunch of people being happy for 2 hours, you'd be like, that movie sucked. If you watch a movie where the entire time people were dying or feeling miserable, you'd be like, that movie sucked. It's like you said, the contrast. So To the soul, there is no time. Time doesn't exist. It's just, hey, I want to experience this in this particular meat suit at this particular time. Take me to this place. And then you argue with it. There's an amazing, by the way, Michael Singer, if you guys haven't read his stuff,
I'm trying to get him on the show. Yeah, I know.
I know too. Like two of the greatest books written or that I've read in the longest time are Untethered Soul and The Surrender Experiment. He also did it was kind of like an audio class as a follow-up to The Surrender Experiment called Living from Surrender. And he had this thing in there where he kind of takes you through this process of like what happened with the Big Bang and 13.8 billion things that were happening so that we are at this moment. And he takes you through this whole process. But like, you don't even have to go through that. If your parents didn't happen to be in the same room at that same moment to meet each other, you wouldn't be here. So in other words, if there was a rainstorm that stopped your dad from driving to some certain place, you wouldn't be here. If your grandparents didn't meet, just think of how many perfect magical synchronicities needed to happen for you to have this exact moment, for us to be on this podcast, for you to be in your car or wherever listening to this thing right now, like just fathom for a second, 13.8 billion years of miracles, right? And then you go, yeah, but I don't like my boss. It should be another way. Or I should be making more money. Or this person shouldn't be annoying me. Or blah, 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 blah.
Well, you're good at this.
Who the hell are you? Like, truly, who are you that you are greater than the design of all of this? And that's what we do. And we get upset. The only reason you get upset is because you believe that life should be at this moment different than it is. If you actually have the space to just go, God, I love this experience. And whatever my heart is singing at this moment and whatever emotion I'm having, that is part of the tapestry that makes this so beautiful.
Yep.
Like, I get to feel pain. I get to feel longing. I get to feel elation. I get to feel broken living on unemployment checks, right? I get to hold my son for the first time. I get to lose my daughter in Israel and be scared out of my fucking mind. That's my life's tapestry. And if we didn't have that, life would be boring.
Yeah, there'd be no forward momentum. There would be no growth. There'd be no expansion. It's all part of it. And it's funny, Ilan, saying like, love this, love that. And people are like, I can't love that stuff. Well, if you can't love that stuff, then love that you can't love that stuff. Love that that's what's going on for you right now. Love your present moment experience and whatever is going on. It's never going to be picture perfect. And there is no external way that you can maneuver things for you to feel okay internally. It just doesn't work that way. Everything you see outside of yourself is a reflection of inner beliefs. Yes. Every single person you're complaining about is the things that you don't want to look at yourself that you are. It's what you complain about yourself to yourself, but it's become like, I call it like white energy, like white noise. It just blends in the background. So it's like white energy. It's like energy. It's these things you feel them in your body all the time, but they've been there for so long you forgot that it could even be any other way. You've had this clenching feeling around your chest for so long that you don't remember that there could be spaciousness in there, or that your guts don't need to feel like someone's squeezing the shit out of them, or whatever it might be, because you lack contrast. Debbie Ford used to have this amazing analogy about like, and she's passed now, and this is amazing work that she's left behind. She used to say that like your life is like this room with all these castles, a castle with all these thousands of rooms, and every room is like a way of being. And you give these grand tours of this castle, and you always ask for feedback. And at the end of the tour, you kind of get this feedback, and the feedback is, well, you have a great place here, but that one room in the back, it needs some serious work. And no matter how many people you ask, you get some kind of similar feedback to that. So you make some changes, you feng shui the furniture, you repaint the room, you put it back on the tour. No matter what you do to this room, people just don't like it. So you're like, you know what? I have all these other rooms. I'll just close this door. I will take it off the tour. Now imagine that over a lifetime. By the time people show up for personal development work, they have like 2 doors left open. And they think they know who they are, but they forgot that they're this infinite potential being. And, I think that's what a coaching is. It's about giving people the courage to go open those doors again and discover what was in there. Because look, you were a child and you're still a child. All of us are 7 years or younger. That's how development works. And yes, you might be in a bigger body, and yes, you might have more responsibility, and yes, you might have more experiences, but the fear has not changed since you were little. It feels exactly the same way. If I put you in circumstances where you're uncertain, You look just like a 5-year-old in front of a room, really scared to give that presentation or whatever it might be. And that's what we're all dealing with. We're dealing with our little kids. Now, if that's what you're dealing with as an entrepreneur, as a mom, as a dad, whatever you might be, then you got to notice that there's this little child in you who's scared. And if a little child came to you and was scared and is like, hey, I really need some help right now, I'm really sad, you're not going to kick it and tell it to shut the fuck up because I got stuff to do right now. You'd be like, oh, sweetheart, how are you? And okay, let me take care of you. Let me hug you. But we don't do that to ourselves. We do kick ourselves and we do move on to the next thing. And this is what I see with people who are just in personal development, not in like the spiritual path, is they start using it to bypass emotion. Kind of like what you said. It's like, I got to get in action. So I'm having this experience today. Something is disappointing me. It's making me feel something. And I'm going, well, I got to get back into action. So you bypass it and you go on to your next thing. But the truth is, let's slow down for a moment, get present and be like, hey, sweetheart, yeah, there's disappointment in there. Feel that. There's sadness in there. You get to feel that hurt. You get to feel that because emotion is energy in motion. The emotions that you keep feeling, that you keep saying, I don't want to feel that, you keep pushing them down and they keep trying to come back up. That's their natural state. So when we meditate, we do these things, what we're doing is we're creating a gap between our awareness, like our observer awareness and consciousness, just enough so that emotion could actually pass through. So we're not holding it down. When that happens, it has a natural healing effect on the body. And possibility arises where there was no possibility before. And those are those new frequencies that you get to experience and feel and develop from and manifest from.
And remember.
And that's what it's all about. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna say one thing that I know we have to start wrapping up soon. There's too many things. I pushed them down for so long because I was like, not needed. I live here.
Yep.
And then so when I started actually meditating and started feeling things, I was like, oh, that sucks. But I also had no words for them. So I actually bought myself one of those little cards that 7-year-olds buy, right? And because I'd be like, what feeling is this? I think this is sad, I guess. Right. I remember chatting with one of my friends. I was like, I think this is anger. Like I'm really angry. And she was like, Jaime, that's rage. And I was like, oh, that's good to know. Okay.
Nice.
She's like, you feel like punching the crap out of something. I'm like, well, that's anger, right?
Just slightly. Yeah.
That's so the nuances like you're talking about can be expanded and the feelings that you can have, because we want the new Tesla for the feeling we're going to have from it. We want all this stuff, but the feelings have way more of a wide range that I think any entrepreneur is willing to even go down because they're so scared of the crappy ones. The fear, oh no, if I go down and feel it more, we're going to know too. It's just going to be a rabbit hole that we just go down forever. And we're just so fearful of 7-year-old kids, and not willing to give ourselves a break on it either.
Yeah.
Because we're holding it all together. That's what we do.
Yeah.
In short, spirituality is acceptance of all things. Of all things. So every part of you, every experience you've ever had, every emotion you've ever had, all of it gets to be loved. That's just what's so, right? And when you think you're gonna, what we find is like the myth of all this personal development stuff is that you're doing it because like in the 80s, like empowerment was like the thing, right? Empower yourself. And Ilan and I grew up in that stuff too, like empower yourself, right? And it makes you feel like you're going to get so powerful that you'll overcome, that you won't experience this anymore. And you see that with a lot of spiritual people. It's like, I'm having this experience again, like, and they, like, I can't believe it. I thought we moved past this. And they get upset at themselves and they start raging at the machine, at the system. And that's what doesn't work. It's like, no, okay, it's just the next layer of it. You know how many neurological things you're tied to for every single object that you see? There's millions. There's more connections in your brain. There are stars in the universe. Yeah. Okay? It doesn't matter how much truth you find in anything. You might figure something out. You might be like, oh, I got that. I figured it out. But it's like a sliver of a sliver of a sliver of the actual truth. And it's neurologically connected by millions of things. So it's like, fine, you might have found something and uprooted something, but it's got another trigger. You're one red truck away from flipping the fuck out, Exactly. So but it's like, but when you build the capacity to just be with what's opening up and feeling, you're letting that move through. And this is called samsaras when you meditate. Samsaras is like these negative associations we make with everything. But as we open, the samsaras just move through, the emotion moves through, it literally cleanses itself. You don't have to do anything for this. You just have to be. But we're just so good at doing that we stop being.
Yeah.
Well, and the knowledge of hearing all this and the wisdom of actually doing it are two different things too. That's the
exactly.
That stuff.
Totally.
It's like you said, people want to experience God, right? They want to experience all this stuff. And Singer says this too. He's like, I call bullshit. You don't want to experience God because God is everything. God is hate. God is love. God is gratitude, God is forgiveness, God is pain. And what people experience of God is, like you said, I want to experience all the things that make me really, really happy, and I don't want to experience any of the things that make me really, really sad. That's not God.
Darn it.
That's just not God. So again, it's you have a choice in the matter, right? Circumstances happen. The perspective that you have about the person, the circumstance, the money in your bank account, how your business is doing and not doing, that's on you. Because at the end of the day, it's just that. One of our earliest mentors, he's like, when you can tell me your issue, like you told me about what you had on your bagel this morning, and we came from like the North Jersey area, so bagels were like a big thing. You can remove that with like some gluten-free, I don't know, acai bowl or something. But when you can explain to me what you ate for breakfast the same way that like the most painful thing in your life happened, then I know that you've healed it. Till that happens, it's another, like Guy said, there's some scars that you just get to deal with and
get to, not have to.
When you sign up for that game, it's just beautiful.
I love this. Okay, we could talk for way too long, and I have to say the last question. But you guys have a podcast too, so everybody can listen to their podcast if they want more, for sure. Now I have to. Thanks.
Yeah. These are weekly conversations on there.
Man. All right. So I don't know who wants this one, or both. But what's one action out of everything we talked about?
Yeah.
One action this week that will help them move forward towards their goal of $1 million.
Awesome. Okay, I got one right off the top of my head.
Go for it.
So we spoke about meditation. And again, like people are, man, meditation, blah, blah, blah. So here's what I want to say about meditation. To take it like really practical, okay? When you meditate, what I recommend is you take on a 30-day meditation challenge where you just sit quietly, turn on a YouTube clip, get the Calm app, do whatever works for you, 5-10 minutes a day, just do that. During that process, names and people's faces are going to come to you. It's just natural. Practice for the week. Contact those people. Even if it makes no logical sense to you, why all of a sudden so-and-so if you haven't spoken to for 5 years, like, why am I thinking about it? Contact them. A simple text, an email. Hey, was just sitting meditating today. Got a download about you. Wanted to check in, see how you were doing. Guys, I have made more money acquiring clients by doing that one little trick than any other marketing skill that we've done. That is inspired thought. What that leads to is getting those inspirations in your awakened state. And that is truly the power of this work. So like practice for a week. I'm telling you, like, do the 30 days. Then you can choose, right? Just do the 30 every day, 5 to 10 minutes. I don't care if you do it in the morning, you miss the morning, you do it doesn't matter. And then whatever comes through, you connect with that person. Practice that. Let me know how it goes.
That's what I teach my people too. What the heck? That's awesome.
I'll do a quickie also, and I just want to reflect on that too. Money's not linear. Money is not a linear game. Life is not a linear game. It's actually all right here in front of you right now. Everything you freaking need. I know it's such a cliche, but it's like the shortest point between two places. It is in the same location.
Yeah.
It's just focus, and it's perception. It's all these things that makes you think that like I just have to work for money. Money's just waiting for you out there. There's like checks in the IRS that haven't been sent to you, and your grandma's gonna send you something. There's all these things I want to just bring in, but you don't have the feeling of being worthy. What we're talking about here is how to upgrade worthiness, because the number one disease on the planet is I'm not worthy. So when you're like, I want $1 million, your body's going, I'm not worthy. And it's like, it just can't receive. It doesn't know how to actually receive energy. So you're kind of blocking it off all the time. I'll make this super simple. For me, it's patience and grace. If there's two things, develop patience and grace, because that little kid is coming and it's coming upset. And the thing that we're like, I should be somewhere else. So we're not patient, and we're certainly not graceful. We're like, you idiot, or whatever we say to ourselves that's terrible. And it's like that little kid is coming. Start having a relationship to yourself with the upset. It's not like I'm upset like an adult. I'm upset like a little child. How would I talk to myself if I was upset like a child? I have patience and I have grace with little kids, and have the dignity and respect to treat yourself better than you would somebody's stranger child. Because if a stranger left you their kid to watch for 1 minute, you would treat them better than you treat yourself when you talk to yourself that way. So it's like, just start noticing. It's my little boy, it's my little girl. And when that stuff happens, it's like, instead of being upset, it's like, oh my God, it's interesting. That's happening. Just get curious. Curiosity is the beginning of transformation.
Yeah.
And then the other things I just want to leave you is, people get really frustrated or people don't understand. Frustration is what leads you to spiritual growth. And not understanding is confusion is what leads to understanding. These are actually when you're experiencing those things, you'd be like, yes, something's coming. Awesome is coming. Instead of being like, why am I not getting this? And it's like, if you do that, you're slowing down the velocity of what's available to you and how fast these experiences can come in. And that's why people like Ilan and I, we're growing like crazy. It's like, you talk to us next week, we're going to be like two completely different people. And it's just it's because we're on this path all the time.
Okay. So where can everybody find more information about you? I know there's the website. So tell us the website. Tell us if there's anything we should watch. First, you tell me.
Yeah. So I think just you can obviously go to our website. It's just satoriprime.com. I think really fitting, if you guys are interested in this meditation, is just to go to satoriprime.com/prime your day. That's it's something that we put together. It's not just about meditation, it's visualization, it's different hacks that we have with supplementation, anything to do in the morning that gets your brain and body and soul into perfect alignment. So you can check that out. And we have a podcast called Have It All, Personal Development Without the Fluff. So if you've enjoyed this conversation, we pretty much have these conversations on a weekly basis.
And then one more quick thing. We do have also an app in the iOS and Android store. If you just search Satori Prime, and there's a 10-part personal development mini masterclass in there. So if you actually just want to start going through some training with us, it's free, and you get access to our online community right away. So we definitely have a lot of things out there to help you guys out.
Yep.
Awesome. You guys were fantastic. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day and going down random weird tangents with me. I love it.
Always.
Hopefully everyone else did too. Thank you so much. Have a fantastic day.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed that interview. And if you want to check out more amazing resources, I'm only curating the best of the best. Go check out eventualmillionaire.com. You can take the Eventual Millionaire quiz, figure out where you are in business and what you need right now. Plus, you can look at curated resources specifically for you on the new Start Here page. I'm so excited. Please join us. Please let me know if you need anything at all. I'm here for you. And have a fantastic day. Bye.